today we have a blessing, honor to have um, Eugene. And so I want to welcome Eugene as well, Kara. They are visiting us. They're actually they're friends, and they're doing a tremendous work in Africa. Part of what they do is regarding missions, and I know he will share more about it. But we're very honored to have them. They really have a heart for missions, for people, and they have been doing a tremendous work over there. They take I believe is shoes and other supplies to Africa, and not only that, but they're also planting churches in Africa. And so we have the honor to have them here today. He is a friend of us as well, dear friend of Pastor John. And so he's bringing the word today. He's going to share with us. And him and Kara have, I believe, is it 3 or 4 kids? I believe 3. 3 and 1 on the way as well. Yes. So why don't you help me welcome him on stage?
All right, good morning, everyone. You know, when I was sitting down there and I look on the stage, the first thing I said to my wife is, that table looked really tall. I hope I'm tall enough to see this. I guess it's a little bit shorter once you're here. But anyway, my name is Eugene. I'm actually from Taiwan, born and raised in Taiwan. And I'm happy to share with you my story here. So today, I'm just going to share 3 stories with you. Number 1 is a Bible story, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Number 2, I'm going to share about the founding story of my ministry. It's called Step 30. Number 3, I'm going to share with you my personal story. And all these stories, hopefully, I will be able to encourage you to go out of your comfort zone and to do something about it, about what the situation of this world. Okay, so number 1, this is the story of the Bible, if I can get it. There you go. So I'm just going to paraphrase it since most of you already know the story. Have you heard the story? If you have heard the story, please raise your hand. 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. Okay. All right, I'm just going to paraphrase it. Basically, Jesus was walking around, and because of the signs and wonder that he had performed, there was always a lot of people following him. So there was one time the Jewish Passover festival was near, so Jesus looked up and saw a lot of people following him, so he said to Philip, where should we buy bread for those people to eat? But he already knew what he was going to do. He was just testing him. So his disciples answered him, oh, it would take more than half a year's wage to buy enough bread for each one of us to just have a bite. Another one of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said, okay, here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far would they go among so many? But Jesus got all of them to sit down. So according to the record, there are actually 5,000 men. So if you count women or underage people, man, there may be 10,000. Who knows? There's a lot of people. So Jesus took the bread, Jesus took the fish, gave thanks, broke it, and then distributed. Everybody had something to eat. Everybody got full. And then Jesus said, don't waste any food. So collect the leftover pieces. And it actually filled 12 baskets. So everybody was surprised. Wow, this is really the prophet that is coming to the world. So this is the story that we're all familiar with. And what has this story got to do with us, with Step 30? I'm going to connect the dot for you later. So let's go to the second story now. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So let's go to the next story, which is the founding story of Step 30. And since they're working on the PowerPoint, I'm just going to tell you, Step 30, the Chinese name is probably more familiar with you guys, a lot of you guys. It's called 旧鞋救命. Literally, it means old shoes save life. Okay, so this is our logo. We're known for collecting a lot of shoes to send to different African countries. Now, I always like to know my audience. If you speak Chinese, can you raise your hand? Okay, good. Have you heard of Step 30 before? Can you raise your hand? Or 旧鞋救命. Okay, good. Have you donated shoes to us before? If you can raise your hand. Okay, there's still some people that have donated your shoes to us. Okay, so this is what we're known for. And my wife and I, we actually travel to Africa a lot. And this morning, I noticed one of my staff is here. So Helen, can you say hi? She just came back from Uganda. I didn't know she was going to be here. Okay. So you see, we travel there, we live there for a bit, and then we'll come back. And this year, we actually came back to stay here because there's a lot of different countries that are doing Step 30 event. So this year, I've been traveling to Korea, to Australia, America, or different places. Silicon Valley, they're actually doing an event right now. So anyway, so when I first came back to Taiwan to live here, to travel, and my friends and family, they would come to me and say, "Hey, Eugene, you're back." Oh, they would ask a lot of questions. One of the questions that they always ask me is this: "Oh man, I know you live in Africa. What is it like there?" And they always ask this: "Is it really hot in Africa?" Now, what do you think? Do you think it's hot in Africa? If you think it's hot, raise your hand. If you don't think it's hot, raise your hand. Okay, for those of you who don't raise your hand, you probably think it's warm. But let me tell you. I don't know how to answer this question. Do you know why? I will always say, well, there are actually 54 different countries in Africa. There's a lot of different economic situation, climate, weather, everything is different. You got to be a little bit more specific. There's a part of Africa that, it's kind of like what you think. In desert, kids are sick, they don't have enough food to eat. That's true. This part of Africa is like that. But then there's other part of Africa where they have ski resort. Did you know that? There are African cities where Africans drive Ferraris in the city, living an African life, right? So you got to be a little bit more specific. It's like me asking you, is it safe or dangerous in Asia? Right? Like, what are you talking about? Like North Korea, South Korea, Japan, or Cambodia? Okay, so why did I say that? Because a lot of times missionaries or NGO workers come back from the village in Africa, and then we will tell stories, amazing stories, crazy stories, dangerous stories. That kind of gives the false impression of, oh, well, man, everyone in Africa is starving. Everyone in Africa is hungry. Now, we're not lying, but that's not the whole picture of Africa. So what I'm about to say is some part of Africa that we're working in. So I don't want to give you the false impression. That's why I said that first. Especially in an international group, you'll always have people from all over the place, and some more from Africa. They'd be like, that's not the true Africa. That's not Africa I know. So that's why I said that first. Okay, let's get into the real story now. Second story, Step 30. Now, guess how many pairs of shoes we have collected in the past 5 years? Let's take a guess. 100,000. Okay. A little bit more than that. 1 million. A little bit more than that. Okay, we have collected in the past 5 years over 2 million pairs of shoes to send to different countries in Africa. So mostly in East Africa, we're talking about Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, a little bit in Congo, Rwanda, or South Sudan. We've been trying to get in there. And then, of course, Swazini, and then that's in South Africa, and then, of course, Nigeria and some parts of East Africa. So we have been collecting a lot of shoes. Let me do an illustration for you to understand why is it so fast for us to collect a lot of shoes. Now go turn around and tell your neighbor, tell the person sitting next to you, how many pairs of shoes you have. Go ahead, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to count it, okay? Including sandals, flip-flops, rain boots, snow boots, high heels. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Count it and then tell your neighbor how many pairs of shoes you have. All right, most of you are quiet now. Some of you are still talking. You probably have a lot of shoes. Okay, here's the thing. There's a lot of people, right? So we're going to see how many pairs of shoes you have. So if you have more than 3 pairs, please raise your hand. I saw somebody who was like, really, 3? Okay, you got to go higher than that. Okay, 5. If you have more than 5, keep your hands up. 5. If you have more than 7, keep your hands up. If you have more than 10, keep your hands up. Okay, if you have more than 13, keep your hands up. Ooh. If you only have 2 feet, but you have more than 15 pairs of shoes, keep your hands up. Wow. 17. Oh. Okay, you can put your hands down now. I don't want you to feel condemned, okay? There's people staring a lot. You. Okay, anyway, everybody has a lot of shoes here, but you guys are not the most. I remember this one time, I was in the school. It was about 600 kids. So I asked the same question. Everybody raise your hand. And I said 10, 20, 30, 40. The whole school kind of put their hands down. Only one kid kept his hand up. I was like, are you serious? He said, well, we own a shoe store. I was like, all right, that doesn't count. But honestly, in Taiwan, if you have 5 pairs of shoes, that's kind of normal. And then here's the thing. We're so rich, like when we buy a pair of shoes, it doesn't feel comfortable 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you tried it. Would you force yourself to wear it? Probably not, right? You'll probably just put it in your shoe cabinet somewhere, put it away. And there's no other places you can give your shoes away. Usually, if you have a jacket that you have worn before, you can still give it to your friends. But if you have a pair of shoes that you have worn, you're not going to give it to your friends. Not likely, not in Taiwan culture anyway. So hundreds and thousands of tons of shoes are being thrown away in Taiwan every year. So we became the only one that's collecting shoes. And, you know, a lot of shoes are very good. So how did it all start? Let's go back to the story of Step 30. This handsome guy, that's how we all started. Because he's my father-in-law. I can't say anything about it. I got all right. This guy, Alan. Alan's my father-in-law. He's a missionary. He's always traveling to what we would call third world countries. But 30 years ago, he started traveling to India, South America, Jamaica. He actually lived there a couple years. So the past 7 years, he's been traveling to Uganda and Kenya. So as he was sharing the gospel, he's not going to just say, Jesus loves you, Jesus loves you. But if you're hungry, that's your business. I'm gone. No, you got to feed the poor. You got to provide their physical needs. So he started building school. He started digging wells. And 7 years ago, when my daughter was born, my firstborn was born, he came to Taiwan. He visited us, and we talk about how school's going. All the kids are doing good. Grades are good. There was only one problem. All of their feet are rotten. Let me show you the picture. So in our school, in Kenya and Uganda border, there's this thing called jiggers. It's basically a parasite. So they're in the ground. So kids are walking around without shoes, so they will bury themselves into the kids' feet, between the toenail. And then the male one will start sucking their blood. The female one will start laying eggs. So you can imagine you got 20, 30, 50 eggs in your feet. And at this point, your feet are really, really itchy. What do? That's right, scratch it. But if you keep scratching it, it still doesn't work. What do you keep doing? Well, what do you do now? You keep scratching. That's right. That's right. So the local kids, what they would do is they get a needle, and then they start digging. They dig out all the worms. They dig out all the eggs. Now, do you think that solves the problem? In some way, it kind of stops the growing of jiggers, but because their feet are still, the wounds are open, so they will step back into the dirt. So our kids, they start getting all kinds of bacteria infection, which makes it even worse. Sometimes they do have to do amputation of their leg or life-threatening situation. Now, you have bug problem. How do you prevent it from going into your feet? Wear shoes. That's simple. So my father-in-law, what he did was he would buy shoes from Canada, and then he would put them in the suitcase and bring it there, and he would got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 suitcases. How many pairs of shoes can you fit in one suitcase? 30, 20, maybe. So he would line up the kids. This is what he would tell me. He would line up from the smallest kid to the biggest. He would give them shoes, keep giving, and then he would stop. Do you know why? There was not enough. We had already built 3 schools at that time. So there was about 600 to 700 kids at that point. So there was never enough. So in my mind, something popped into my head. Some of the people here, they were still raising their hand after 15. So I thought of you guys. Like in Taiwan, there's a lot of people have a lot of shoes, and they don't wear it. So this is what I did. I designed this poster, and it says 旧鞋救命, basically means old shoes, new life, save life. So basically, I tell the story of what we were doing in Africa, in the villages, and I said, the kids are having this situation. If you have shoes that you're not wearing, can you send it to us so we can send it to our school? So this poster had been reposted 1 time, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. There was a lot of people talking about this. And I turned to my wife, I was like, do you think people are actually going to send shoes? Because you know how on the internet and actually sending shoes are 2 different things. But then the very next day, there are 3 trucks stop right in front of our house and start uploading all the packages. So we're talking about all different companies. Every companies in Taiwan start uploading thousands and thousands of packages in our house. And you know in Taiwan, when you receive a package, what do you have to do? Sign. And when you receive 3,000 packages, what do you got to do? Sign 3,000 times. Now here's for the Chinese-speaking people. I'm glad my mom named me 右任,右边的右, not 国龙. Okay? You get that? My Chinese is actually very easy to write. So, but anyway, we started receiving thousands and thousands and thousands of packages, and then all of a sudden, we're on the TV, we're on the news, and the news people would say, hey, look at these couple, they're doing this in the villages in Africa, so if you have shoes that you're not wearing, send it to them. Wow, there's more and more shoes flocking in. Let me tell you what happened right there. I always joke around saying we're pretty healthy during that time because we have to go climb mountains every day. And that's me on top of that mountain. And I got to tell you, the location of this place is my brother's living room. So you can't see it, but the couches, everything is underneath. So this is his living room. So I always joke about this. I always say, looking back to this 5 years, 6 years, looking at this whole founding story, one thing that I'm really grateful. I'm grateful I put down his address, not mine. So his house was flooded. Because I live in a small apartment, I got 2 bedrooms. And my brother has like one of those toutian, I don't know what you call it, but basically 3 stories. So I said, can I get the people to send the shoes and put it in your house first? He's like, yeah, sure, send them here. Everything. Every single room, living room, basement, all filled with people's shoes. And this is the thing. My brother, he does computer repairing. He has a computer shop. This is a computer shop. And then old customers will walk past them and say, oh, you guys don't do computer business anymore? You're doing recycling? All the packages, all the shoes and everything. So my brother would explain to them, no, this is my younger brother, he's doing this in Africa, so you guys can help if you want. So now we got a situation at hand because we didn't expect to have that many pairs of shoes. So we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people's manual labor. We need that many people to come help. So I started calling a lot of people, and we need a lot of money. We're not just sending 5 pairs of shoes, a package to Africa, to Kenya. We're talking about a whole container filled with shoes. We're talking about 50 to 100,000 pairs of shoes now. What are we going to do? We're talking about $500,000 NT to $1 million NT to send it over there to cover all the costs. If you read the newspaper, you know my wife and I were considered a low-income family. Because when we first got married, our dream is to work for church, is to work in the community service. So we just make what they so-called 22K in Taiwan, like the minimum wage. Because that's the lifestyle that we want. That's the lifestyle we enjoy. And what are we going to do now? So immediately we started praying. It's like, what are we going to do? Like, should we continue on with this? Should we actually send it? Because that's going to cost all our money. We need a lot of people. But then secondhand, my wife and I, we encourage each other. Nah, God has already opened the door. All this blessing has already flown down. We already got more than 10,000 people joining us. Everybody is really looking forward to the day that these are being sent out, especially my brother. So you got a lot of people, expecting this good thing to happen. So my wife, she's pretty cool. She's here today. She's pretty cool. She said, yeah, let's get out all our money in the bank. Let's just send it all. Spend it all. So we did. We sent out the container. And you can imagine that day, we closed the container door. And my brother walked over there and sit on his couch. I never expect that line to be a punchline, but it is pretty cool now. But anyway, so we send the container. If you know your geography from Taiwan, any port in Taiwan, send to Kenya, Mombasa, it will take about a month, a little bit over a month. And if you count all the paperwork, agency, and everything, that take about 3 months. So after 3 months, I already forgot about all this stuff. Until the day I go back home and I turn on my computer and I saw this picture. Oh, they got it. They got the shoes. I almost forgot about it. So I started receiving shoes from all the orphanages, all the churches, all the schools. They started getting shoes. And I started hearing all the stories. They would tell me, oh, this kid, he was infected with AIDS when he was born, and he got abandoned by his family. Now he's here. Thank you guys for the shoes. This kid, he had never worn a pair of shoes in his whole life. Thank you, guys. And then this kid, he was infected to a certain degree. Now we treated him. Now he has a pair of shoes to wear. Thank you. I started receiving different emails every single day. And then not only just kids, like Gladys, he hadn't worn a pair of shoes for over 9 years. So when she prayed, and all of a sudden, people are giving her free shoes and clothes, and then she was telling the story of how God answered her prayer. So every day, I was constantly receiving these things, these messages. And then until the day I actually went there, I actually kneeled down, put on a pair of shoes on those kids. It was awesome. It was awesome. There were stories, countless stories that I can tell, but there were a few times when I was in high school, I put on the pair of shoes for the kids, and I said, what do you think? And he's like, this is awesome. And I said, do you want it? He said, yes. And I said, you can have it now. It's yours. So he said, really? I said, yeah, it's yours. And he said, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So he wouldn't wear it. And then I realized he only had one pair of shoes, right? And he has to walk 30 to 40 minutes to go to school. If he actually wore that shoes every day, it would have been worn out in a year or two. So he decided to take that to school and then put it on in school. So I started hearing stories like this. I started to realize how much they treasure these shoes that we send there. We even have stories where we got little kids, in the 3rd grade. You know, when we were doing the jigger cleaning, there were little kids being carried in because he couldn't walk because the bottom of his feet are all rotten. So we actually had to use a small knife to cut off all the dead skin, to peel off all the dead skin, dug the worm out, soak them in the solution, and then we treated the kid. And then we send them home with a pair of shoes from Taiwan. But that's not at the end of the story because we always have 2nd and 3rd and 4th checkup, depending on the situation. That kid that I talked about, after 6 months, 7 months later, the last time I saw him, he was already wearing a pair of Taiwanese shoes and running around playing soccer with his friends. So for the people that raise their hand that have donated shoes, can we give them a round of applause? You see, living in Kenya, traveling around, it's not every day that I get the opportunity to actually see the people that have donated shoes. So thank you. Thank you. I forgot who rose their hand, but thank you guys. These are your stories. So you can imagine coming back home with all these stories and 50,000 pairs of shoes, a lot, but after one village, one mountain, one village, we still gave them all out. And people started asking me, do you want to continue to do this? And my wife was, people were asking her too, do you guys want to keep doing this? You know what I said? It's easy for you to say. You're not the one that was doing it. But then, of course, all the churches are showing up saying, if you want shoes, we have a lot more shoes. We got schools showing up saying, we have a lot of students, we can do volunteer work. We have people saying, oh, I have a connection to know this transporting company. Maybe they can give you a discount. So maybe we should start this ministry. So very quickly, we started this ministry. It's called Step 30 International Ministry. And then the Chinese is actually called 社团法人救济救命国际基督关怀协会. Okay? And I always joke about this. I said, maybe I don't do a lot more than people, but at least my name's longer than a lot of people. But so we started this organization, and then after a month or 2 months or 3 months, the first thing that I turned around and said to my wife, hey, babe, I think we got to move to Kenya to live there for a while. Because it's hard for us to be in an air-conditioned room in Taiwan to decide what we want to do there. If we don't understand their culture, if we don't see their resources, if we don't immerse into them, their culture, how are we going to come up with the right strategy? So my wife was pretty cool. Like my daughter was 1 at a time. So we brought our first daughter with us. We lived there for 6 months, and then we come back. We went there again. So back and forth, that's how we lived there. And then, so this is the food that we eat. I don't know if we have any Africans here. This is ugali. You guys eat that? Which part of Africa are you from? Oh, Eswatini. Okay. I was there last year, actually. Okay. So this is a school that they traditionally build, and you can see continue. We do a lot of fundraise shoe collection in Taiwan. See, I've learned not to put it in my house, but put it in someone else's school. So the shoes continue to come in, and we continue to give shoes, but there's a problem. We start to realize, hey, what if we keep giving and giving forever and ever and ever? What would happen to the people that are receiving shoes? If we continue to give it for free, if we continue to give without asking anything? What would happen to them? They get used to it, right? They get used to it, and they take it for granted. So I was like, okay, that's not a cool thing. But we still got to give because this is what happened to our kids in school. Some of them, are being paralyzed because they can't walk, they can't go fetch water, they can't go to school. And we're talking about education now. We're talking about all other problems now. So we still got to give. But how do we give but not paralyzing their ability to sustainability? So what we thought of is, okay, maybe we can go get them to pick up trash, right? There's a lot of trash around this area. So all of you guys go pick up trash. If you have a bag of trash, you can come here tomorrow in exchange for a pair of shoes. So this is what's up tomorrow. So we picked up the whole village, all the trash in the village. So the government started noticing us. Oh, you guys are doing something different, not only preventing them from being jigger infection, but also picking up the trash. And we started to realize, okay, this is something that we can do to teach them to work. So all the guys here, we're going to build a bridge here. So come out tomorrow. If you work a day, you can get a pair of shoes. All the kids here, we're going to build a school here. So if you come out tomorrow to help, you can get a pair of shoes. All the people here, we're actually planting trees in this area with government. So if you come out, plant a certain number of trees, you can get a pair of shoes. So you can imagine infrastructures are being built while we're giving out shoes. So you can imagine these things are long-lasting, plus we're teaching them to work for their, for the reward. And even we tell them to to make bricks. So they will burn and make bricks themselves. So 30 bricks will come to us in exchange for a pair of shoes. So at the end of the day, I get thousands and thousands of bricks. Guess what I use it for? To build a school. But we don't just build it ourselves. We give it to them. We'll give it to the orphanage pastors to get them to build it. So we will, at the end of the day, we'll tell them, see, from burning, making the brick, to building of the school, you guys all did it yourself. You don't need to rely on the foreigners, what they will call the Mzungus, to come to help you guys. You guys can do it yourself. This is the ultimate goal of every missionary, of every NGO workers, is to leave them alone, is to not help them. See, right now, they might need your help, but after we get them up and then get a system running, the ultimate goal should be not helping them. And that's the key. That's what we want to do, to get them to be self-sustainable. So we started looking into all different kind of things. We turned our containers into schools so they can receive education 5-10 years later. That's what's really going to change them. And then we started digging water wells so that they can have clean water to drink. And then we started doing sanitary pads. We teach them about feminine education values and teach them how to make their own sanitary pads. And then we also do chicken farming. So because with chicken, you have egg. With egg, you have more chicken. See, Helen, she had like 5. She had 5. And then the last time I saw her, she had 100. And then she sold half of them, bought 4 goats. And then the last time I talked to her, she was actually looking into buying a cow. You can imagine now going there, she's not going to say, Eugene, I'm hungry. Can you give me something to eat? No, it's like, I'm kind of hungry. Can you kill the chicken for me? So you see, my identity has turned from her sponsor into her friend. This is ultimately what we want to do, right? And then we also teach them how to raise their own garden. So there's too many things, that too little time. But on the top left, we're actually helping the street, the homeless people in Taiwan. And then on top right, that's our suitcase project. Top left, that is our backpack project. And then the bottom right, that is actually the core of what we do. Guess what they are? Guess who they are? These are our pastors. We actually, in Kenya, we actually help manage and pastoring 120 to 150 house church pastors. Which means in Taiwan, you read a lot of news articles about, 2 million pairs of shoes being sent or schools being built. But the news article is not going to tell you all of them are being handed out by our pastors. All the schools are held by our pastors, hosted by our pastors. Which means this is a mission. We're talking about 2 million people, not receiving shoes, but 2 million people had the opportunity to encounter gospel. This is ultimately what we want to do. This is advancing the kingdom of God. This is the ultimate goal of Step 30. Not just what the newspaper are telling you, humanitarian work. And also, we have the opportunity to work with hundreds of schools in Taiwan, which means we can preach the gospel in Taiwan into all the young next generations. And we have sent hundreds of people every year to Africa, different countries in Africa, to help. And we challenge them in their faith, And also, we continue to do church planting, baptize people. There's a lot of cool stories that I can tell you, but it's just, I don't have enough time. But anyway, moving on. This is me in school praying with hundreds and thousands of students. It's pretty cool that I get to invite into all the schools in Taiwan. You know, they would say, our school is doing Step 30 event. Can you come and share about this thing? And I would go into the school, and I said, you know, I was being saved by Jesus. Now we can come together to help others that are in need. And the teacher will look at me and be like, is he talking about Jesus? Like this picture right here, I was in the school. They're about to start packaging these shoes. And all of a sudden, I just say, guys, we're going to start this thing. Everybody bow our head and let's start praying. And you can imagine the principal. Are we praying now in my school? But hey, I got the mic. I remember this one time. I was in the school. I was being blunt, being straight, talking about my testimony, my story. And after I'm done, I talk about Jesus. I talk about helping others. I talk about leading thousands and thousands and thousands of people for God. And then after the after the school sharing, there was actually an auntie walk up to me and be like, hey, I'm a Christian too. I'm like, what are you, undercover? But anyway, God has opened up a lot of platform for us to enter into school to preach the gospel to a lot of people, not just African countries, but also in Taiwan. We're talking about over 10,000 volunteers, non-believing volunteers that are following you to do the work of God. That's awesome. That's what God has opened up the door for us to do. Okay, I'm going to share with you one last story. You know, in Taiwan, all the news article, you know, Apple News, I don't know if you guys read Chinese news, but they always like to use very provocative words and exaggeration, extreme words to describe everything. That's what Chinese people will call spicy, bloody words that they like to use. So people read their news. Guess how they describe me, the founder of Step 30? Eugene, that's my name, or Yang Youren. Guess how they would describe it? They always say, bold-headed. I don't know why that's a thing, but a lot of them do say that. Tattoo. High school dropped out. Low-income guy or graffiti on the street being chased by the police. That's how they describe me. This is a picture of me when I was at the age of 14. I was a graffiti kid. I was a skateboard kid. I was being chased by the police. These are all true. But what happened there? What happened? How did it go from a kid that are, you know, with all that kind of tag to a guy that's in Africa building water well, building schools, or I was nominated the 10 most outstanding youth in Taiwan 2 years ago. What happened in between? Here's the story. When I was 18, I was living in Australia. I was looking for a basketball court to play basketball. So I walked into a place. There was a basketball court full of graffiti. So I walked in there. I was like, oh, this place is cool. And then there was a guy covered with tattoo. He was just playing basketball. So I started playing with him. I was like, man, this is cool. And then I realized I was tricked into the church. That was a pastor there. I was like, oh, I was not looking for Christianity. I wasn't looking for Christianity, but his story was so cool that intrigued me to want to stay a little bit to hear his story. Like his whole generations, like his last generation, the generation before him, was all in the gang violence. Like his dad was murdered at the age, when he was 3. His dad was murdered right in front of the street. So I was like, what happened to you? And then he started telling me Jesus. He started telling me all this stuff. It's like, okay, it's cool. And then the next person, and then the next person, and then the next person. I was like, okay, this is something different. Everybody's saying this Jesus, how amazing he is. I kind of want to experience that. I kind of want to experience what they talk about, that amazing lifestyle. So one night, I decided, all right, cool. So I kneeled down. I said, Jesus, I didn't know how to pray. Jesus, I don't know how to pray, but if you're real, if you're just like what the pastor or all these other guys are saying, I want to experience you if you're real. So that night, you know what happened the next day? Nothing. Nothing happened. I continued to go to church. You see, when you hear testimony, people always like to expect something big, great would happen. But this is a true story. A lot of times you pray, nothing would happen. You just got to keep on forward, go forward. Continue to attend the church. But anyway, nothing happened, so I continued to go to church. You know, they're good people, so I hang with them. But here's the thing, though. That was like 14, 15 years ago. Now, when I look back, even today, right now, standing on this stage, having the privilege to share with you all these stories. You know, going to Silicon Valley 2 months ago on the bigger stage to talk about life, talk about helping others. Or being in the desert, giving the kid the first cup of clean water. These stories are God shouting at me, I am real. So maybe today, you have been tricked into this church. But if you're honest, if you're genuine, ask God to reveal himself to you. Maybe 10, 15 years later, you will be able to be on the stage and say, that day was the day that I turned my life around. So you can imagine the pastors were sharing with me all different kind of story, and then he opened up his house to me, so I will always hang with him. So he shared with me about life, about a lot of things. So I started to do the same. I started sharing with my life with others. Now, this is not a picture of me joining a gang. This is me joining the church, okay? But my pastor was happening to hosting a lot of kids that are like that, so it looked like a gang. But anyway, I remember, I would always open up my house for a lot of people to come in. And sometimes I will work hard, and I'll go home, and I'll open my door. You can imagine there are always 5, 6, 10 kids living with me, everyone. And my door would never lock, so they can come in anytime. So I remember this one time I'll go home, and I'll open the door. Oh, man, I've been robbed. Everything's so messy. And I take a look. Wait, no. My computers are still here. My monies are here. And I open the fridge. All the food are gone. So I started calling these guys, and then they say, oh, Eugene, we were looking for you, but you didn't show up, so we had a party there. We just left. I was like, okay, whatever. And there was another time. I went home. I work hard. I go to school, and after school, I went to work, trying to make my money, make ends meet, and I went home, opening up the door. There was a kid standing there saying, Eugene, don't get mad. This is when you know you should get mad. And I said, what did you guys do? He's like, I got to show you something. So he walked me in there, and I saw my bed frame snapped in half, and I saw a big hole on the wall, this big. I was like, what'd you guys do? I was like, nah, we were just playing. But this is what the kid said. He said, that's okay. I can fix it for you. It's like, you're not a carpenter. How do you fix that? So he went outside. There was on the street in Australia, people sometimes throw out their old bed. So he picked one up and then put it in my house. So I slept in that old bed for a couple of years. And I was like, what's going to happen to the wall? He's like, I got this. So he went to the shopping mall. He stole a baby poster and put it on my wall. So for those people that didn't know me, walk into my house like, oh, Eugene's so loving. He got a baby poster on his wall. But anyway, it was cool. That was some of the crazy stories that when I was hosting these kids. But it was worth it, though. It was worth it. I remember there was one time I was in a church service, and this kid standing on the stage saying, hey, Eugene, if it wasn't for you, like he was wearing suit and tie, he was on a service like this. He was on the stage, and he said, if it wasn't for Eugene taking me into his house, I wouldn't know where I'll be right now. Because back then, when we're in a gang, when we walk around, we always have to turn around and see if other gangs are going to hop up and beat us. So now, we're off that lifestyle. Now we can take care of other people. Thank you, Eugene. And I remember thinking, wow, man, I didn't have money. I didn't have any kind of position in life, but I can still do something for God. God can still use me to help others. So that's when I decided, I want to go back to Taiwan. There's so many people that haven't heard the gospel yet. I want to go back to Taiwan. So I called my landlord. I bought a one-way ticket. And when my landlord showed up at my house, he opened up the door. I said, landlord, don't get mad. I gave him back the house, and I came back to Taiwan. But anyway, there's so many stories. I already passed my time. There was a lot of story. And I always share a lot of God's story in my life to a lot of kids. And guess what? A lot of kids, sometimes they will say, Eugene, we want these stories too. We want our life to be full of story that we can tell and do all this and that. We want to experience God too. And this is what I always said to them. I would challenge them. I said, you know what? Everybody wants to tell stories of God, but nobody wants to live in that kind of story, lifestyle. What did I mean? Everybody wants to see signs and wonder, but nobody wants to wake up 5:30 in the morning to pray. Everybody wants to walk with God. Nobody wants to pay the price. And I said, kids, man, University students, like, tell me this. Do you imagine one day you will get your first job and you're only getting paid $22,000 a month? And there's a lot of loads of work for you to do. You don't get to sleep. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, just so much pressure on you. You crying? Nobody knows. And you wake up in the morning very early, go to work, go to your organization, dealing with the conflict in between the workers. And finally, you build a school. Finally, you get something done, and you even sacrifice your own money to do it. And then it's on the news. Step 30, build a school, and then you start all kinds of criticism telling you how bad you're doing. Is that the kind of lifestyle that you want to live in? Is that the kind of lifestyle that you dream of, having that kind of pressure, just almost to the brink of breaking down? Or are you looking for a lifestyle where you get a lot of pay, you're close to your church, close to your house, and then time to time, you can go home, watch TV, or even travel to Japan to play? Do you understand what I mean? Who wants to pay the price? You know, everybody knows every 5 to 10 seconds there's a kid dying of starvation, malnutrition. And in a crowd like this, maybe one or two of you, maybe, will stand up and say, no, God has called us to take care of orphans and widows. We cannot let that happen. I'm going to do something about it. Imagine that kid actually stand up and start fundraising, want to build a school there. You know what would happen to him? At first, people are going to clap. Awesome, man, go for it. And after he actually raised 1 million NT, you know what would happen? After he built the school, people were starting to examine and criticize. Hey, how come 60% of money actually goes towards building that school, 40% is administration fee? I don't think that's right. Hey, there's more people here and less people here. How come you're giving more food to this area? How do you do distribution? That's not right. Hey, these kids are dying. The food that you're giving is not nutritious enough. What kind of organization is this? How do you do this thing? You'll receive all kinds of criticism. And you know what's the crazy thing about this whole situation? 98% of you know the story, heard about it, but decided not to do anything and go home and watch TV. And those people that went home and do nothing, do you think they're going to be criticized? No. You live your 9-to-5 job, go home, watch TV, travel to Japan to play. Nobody's going to criticize you. It's the people that stand up and actually want to do something for God. They will be criticized. It's the people that want to actually do something for the world. They're the one that's going to be criticized. And that's us. And that's the pastors. That's the people that actually want to do something. You want to tell the story. Do you want to live in that kind of lifestyle? Do you want to pay the price? Let me ask you one thing. All your effort, all your time, all your money, everything that you have, what are you pouring into? What kind of story are you building? Do you dare to tell the story? Let me tell you one last story. This is the first time I went to Kenya. I was meeting with a lot of pastors there. We were having a meeting, talk about how to church planting, and then talk about projects and stuff. Pastor Isaac was there. And Pastor Isaac's wife was Paris. Now, Paris was the first person that I can call out her name, the first friend that I have in Africa, in Kenya. So she was actually pouring out milk tea to all of us. And if you've ever been to Kenya, the milk tea that they will give you is like this. You would take it. Wow, so sweet. Imagine Taiwanese bubble milk tea times 3 sugar. Super sweet. So I put it on the ground, and Paris came to me and saying, hey, young man, don't waste that. Because you look at the kids all across the row. They haven't eaten anything for 3 days. Don't waste any food. And I turned around and looked at her and said, nah, man, I haven't drinking milk tea this good in my whole life, so I'm just saving it. But anyway, I finished it. So Paris was my very first friend in Kenya. And, you know, as you can see, we lived there. When we were living there, we were having a lot of fun. We get to know each other even more. And she was pregnant at the time. My wife was pregnant too, so we decided to come home to give birth to twins. So the twins, one looks like Asian, the other one looks Caucasian. So God is fair. But anyway, Paris wrote me a letter and saying, Eugene, I just gave birth to my baby boy. It's a boy. It's like, awesome. So they don't know. They give birth first, and then they know the gender. So and it's like, that's awesome. And then 3 weeks later, Pastor Isaac wrote me a letter. I was like, this is weird. Usually Paris is the one that writes me letters. And Pastor Isaac said, Eugene, can you pray for Paris because she has cancer? I was like, wow, out of nowhere, what happened here? And then 3 weeks later, Pastor Isaac wrote me a second letter, told me that she has passed away. This is my very first friend in Kenya. Because in the villages, the shortage of medical supply. A lot of my friends, a lot of people that I know, their kids passed away. And all the funerals that we have attended, or all the people that are around us have passed away, made me realize how short life is. You know, I got 3 daughters now. Every morning, I take my firstborn, my daughter to school. I would drive her there. I will watch her walk into school, and I would think to myself, I'm old. I'm already at this stage of my life. How much more time that I have? What is it that we want to do with the rest of our life now? I mean, look at all the people that are passing, all my friends that are passing on to eternity. What am I going to do with my time? And all these things, all these deaths that I've seen, I realized one thing. At the end of people's life, nobody is counting on all the money that you have collected. Everybody is counting on the story that you have accumulated. You know, in my funeral, nobody's going to talk about what kind of car that I drive, but they're going to talk about the water well that we built. They're going to talk about the village that first received the gospel because we went in there. These are the things that I can pass on to my daughters. These are the things that I can pass on to my churches. What about you? What kind of story are you leaving behind at the end of your life? To end this, remember, in that story of 5 loaves and 2 fish, when this young boy took it out, people were criticizing, people were looking down upon all these resources. That's not going to be enough. You know what happened when we first started Step 30? This is what people told me. Yeah, especially in Taiwan, you can understand this. The older people, the elders, they would say, Eugene, charity is for the rich. You make only $22,000 a month. What are you going to do? Eugene, what are you talking about education? You didn't even graduate high school. But I just put what I have in God's hand. There's 2 fish. People look down upon it. I just put it in God's hand, and I see it multiply, multiply, and multiply, and multiply. 2 million shoes has been sent out. Schools have been built. Wells have been dug. Churches have been planted. All these things are happening because I didn't know any better. I just know to put it in God's hand. What about you? You know, people might talk about you and saying, you're only this age. What are you going to do? Or, opposite, you're already at this age. What are you going to do? You're already old. You're only a stay-at-home mom. What are you going to do? You only have this little time. You only have this little money. What are you going to do? I mean, do you dare to take it out and put it in God's hand? To say, Pastor Rudy, I want to serve in the church. I don't know what I can do, but I want to serve in the church. I want to put my things in God's hands. Do you dare to do that? And I guarantee you, you will be beaten down. I guarantee you, you will struggle. But if within that struggle, that you're not giving up. When you beat up and you get back up, at the brink of breaking down, that's when the story comes out. Do you want that story? Do you dare to live in that kind of lifestyle? Last thing I want to leave for you. Just look at my life. Look at this nobody. God uses somebody who's willing, not somebody who's perfect. Are you willing? Thank you.
I believe we have a video that we want to play. Yani Biblia ni
你可以看得到这里，大家都有沙枣的问题，然后他们的脚趾头都快不见了。
See how severely the legs are infected all across the back of her legs? This is why we need shoes. We're appealing to the supporters of Forgotten People and for Step 30 in Taiwan that you will support us in treating these kids and supplying shoes for them. This will change their lives.
怎么样能够凝结台湾人全部一起做一件事情的这个力量？为什么救鞋救命？我自己很感动的一个部分，是因为救鞋这个门槛非常的低。那挑旺起大家说，那很简单就可以做善事，那就从捐救鞋开始，结果变成做志工，结果变成募款，结果变成越做越多。 那目前今年的这个计划就是好好的把大家的爱心寄过去，然后把货柜变学校。有一个年轻人，他写信跟我说，他很感动救鞋救命这件事情，他自己有送鞋，他自己有去包鞋。他说他相信他能够改变世界，他可以在世界里面出一份力。我想救鞋救命不只是在帮助非洲嘛，凝聚台湾人的爱心，跟培养台湾人做善事。 是我觉得在救鞋救命我看到很珍贵的一件事情。
垃圾换鞋子是一个能够帮他们现在解决镇上的问题。最终，我们不只是把东西丢到这里，而是要怎么样帮助他们来改变他们的生活品质，改变他们的生活环境，或者是说做事方式跟态度。我想这会造成更深远的改变。
Why don't we tell them thank you again, Eugene and Kara, what they're doing? It's amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. Why don't we all get on our feet? And I believe it was really powerful to hear what's taking place through their lives, what they're doing. And I believe as well what Eugene was saying is we all have something that God has deposited in us, something that we many times we think we don't have, or it's not enough, or good enough. But God is not looking for your abilities, but He's looking for your availability. When we're willing and bring what we have, He uses what we have. And I believe when I look at each of us, I believe God has deposited powerful treasures within each of us. You see, last couple of weeks we have been talking about having a blessed life, and it's about your heart. It's about being generous and what we give, not about what we possess, but about what we give. And so I believe each of us, God has deposited something in our hearts, in our lives, and you can start somewhere. You can start, either here in church with God, what the opportunities that we provide, also in your work. We're planning as well, you see, for next year, going on missions as well. You can be part of it. And also we're gonna cooperate as well with Eugene and what they're doing, and we're gonna as well connect with them. But I believe it starts, you can start somewhere, and you have something, God has given you something special and powerful. Today I just want to pray. We're going to continue because we have baptisms and it's celebrations, and we're going to celebrate what, our brothers and sisters who are coming to be part of this family. But I just want you, why don't we all close our eyes? Father, we just pray. I just pray for my brothers and sisters today, Father. We thank you that as we are hearing your word, as we're hearing such stories, Father, of what you can do through us. We thank you because you have given us so much, Father. You have deposited so much within us. We want to be people, Father, that bring what we have to you. And I just pray for all of us today here, as we leave this place, that we will leave this place. We know we'll leave this place different. That as we come to church, as we go to work, we will be reminded that we have something that you have given us. It can start with either giving a pair of shoes or saying good morning to someone at work, or giving a hug to someone, sharing about you to someone that hasn't met you yet. It could be joining as well, serving. And I just pray, Father, as we leave this place, we know that your presence is in this place, but your presence goes with us. And I just pray that as we leave, you continue to speak to us. And I just pray that you will show each of us areas where we can actually give, that you will highlight to us things that you want to do through our lives, things that you have deposited in us. And I just pray, Father, that as we leave, that your Spirit, Father, will just continue to speak to us, and just showing those areas, places where we can start serving, where we can start giving. Thank you, because we have so much that you have given us. The greatest example has been you, who gave your life for each of us. The greatest giver. Thank you for that heart of generosity. We want to be generous people, continue to be generous people in every area. We thank you, Father. I just bless each of us today here as we leave this place, Father, knowing that we're more than conquerors, that we have so much. We thank you. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.